Welcome back. You're watching The Globe on the SABC News Channel, independent and impartial. And tonight, we're giving you special coverage of the goings-on in the United States on Capitol Hill. What was supposed to be a ceremonial certification process. And I say ceremonial because it was supposed to be a question of reading out the Electoral College votes and counting the numbers and then confirming that Joe Biden is the next president of the United States and Kamala Harris, the vice president. But things have taken quite a turn. Republican supporters have gathered outside Capitol Hill. They've breached the premises, and that has seen the debates being suspended, the vice president being taken away, and those that are inside taken to special places of cover, essentially, as they try and sort out the mess. In the meantime, we've been talking to Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who's our US correspondent. He's watching events from New York. But we also asked former member of the US House of Representatives, John Le Boutillier, to keep an eye on things and give us the latest. He joins us now via Skype from New York State. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. You were a member of Congress and you've watched the political process more than once, to say the least, in terms of handing over power. These scenes that we're seeing, please describe just how unprecedented they are.
I don't believe they've ever happened before, Peter, where the public has been egged on by a sitting president to go down and invade the Congress, which they've done. They have destroyed public property. They've gotten into the chamber of the House of Representatives. Some guy got up on the podium, apparently, and yelled out, "Trump won the election, Trump won the election." This is all egged on by Trump. Hopefully no one's going to get physically hurt. That's the number one thing. And hopefully the military, the National Guard, the police will be able to evacuate Congress today, get these people out of here. At some point, Congress needs to do something about this. Now, personally, what they really ought to do is they ought to meet and impeach Donald Trump and throw him out. He caused this. I know he's only got 2 weeks left. So what? We've never removed a president in our history. If ever there's one who should be removed, it's him. But I don't think they have the votes in the Senate to do it. They could do it in the House today, but they don't have they need 67 votes in the Senate, and I don't think they have them. Although I think they're getting closer to having them.
All right. You're a Republican yourself, so in many ways, watching this play out cuts quite deep for you. Do you think that things are going beyond what the president had planned in terms of this invasion of Capitol Hill? We're seeing this tweet where he's saying, you know, stay peaceful, support Capitol Hill police. He must have known there would be trouble, but do you think things have gone further than he thought?
Well, we don't know what he thought, but we know that for several weeks he had been promoting a, quote, wild, that's his term, wild demonstration in the streets of Washington today, November 6th. He's been promoting it on his Twitter feed as president, urging his supporters to come to Washington for a wild demonstration. Now, wild is not fit with the word peaceful. They don't go together. I just got a text, by the way, from a fellow former Republican congressman right while we're talking, saying now is the time. I want to read it to you. This is David Dreyer from California. Now is the time to build the party back. And I'm going to text him back while we're talking because we are at rock bottom as Republicans right now.
How was Donald Trump allowed to get this far? I mean, once the election result had happened and the court cases had been lost, surely that should have been a message to the entire Republican Party that it's time to move on and do something else. We keep hearing about Republicans who are fearful that Donald Trump will continue to have influence after he leaves office. Is that possible, given that 7 years ago he probably wasn't even a Republican?
Well, how about 5 years ago? Yeah, he's going to have some influence, but at some point, the Republican Party needs to be beyond just this man, Donald Trump. Look at last night in Georgia, where Donald Trump single-handedly caused control of the United States Senate to go from the Republicans to the Democrats. He caused it. They voted against him. A state that hadn't had Democratic senators for 30 years put 2 of them in last night as a reaction to Donald Trump. And then we have this thing today, which is a national disgrace. Excuse me?
So are we saying that people, Republicans, some of them, are respecting Donald Trump much more than they respect the Republican Party?
Oh, God, definitely. They don't respect the Republican Party or any other Republican leader. They only are devoted, as a cult leader would be, they're only devoted to Donald Trump. And that's those people that are right now walking on the steps of the Capitol.
So if you've described what he did to the Republicans in Georgia, surely there must be consequences for those Republicans that are inside Capitol Hill that were doing all of this objecting and still fighting the good fight for Donald Trump.
Well, I hope there are. I hope they wake up to what they have been accomplished to Trump in doing what they've done today. And they know better. They know Trump won that Biden won the election legitimately and Trump lost. They ran in the same election. They're not claiming they were fraudulently elected. This is all a game to them. Hawley and Ted Cruz want to run for president in 4 years and thought, if I do this and look like I'm loyal to Donald Trump, I'll get his voters in 4 years. Well, at some point, the Republican Party might want to say to these people, we don't want these voters. They're racist, misogynist, white supremacist, alt-right whack jobs. Maybe we don't want them in the Republican Party.
I mean, I think we started this conversation in terms of the Republican Party going to have to do some kind of introspection and decide how they want to step forward. But losing control of the Senate now means that Joe Biden basically can make sure that his laws get passed. He can have key appointments done. I believe the Attorney General, a name has come up already. This is actually great news for the Democrats, but for the Republicans, it'll be a number of years before they can influence the politics of America again.
Well, yeah, but you don't know that because in 2 years we have elections again for the House and Senate. And usually the out party, which will be the Republicans, makes big gains in the first midterm election. So it's conceivable in 2 years the Republicans could win back the House and or the Senate or both, possibly. Now, you never know. But for the first year, Joe Biden, thanks to Donald Trump, Joe Biden has been given the House and the Senate and, of course, the White House. Donald Trump blew it. And when Donald Trump got elected 4 years ago, Peter, he won the White House, of course, and he had a Republican House and Senate. And under his guidance, 2 years later, he lost the House. This past year, he lost the Senate and lost the White House, all because of him.
All right. We've also got Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York. Sherwin, what is happening now? What are you seeing? What's playing out?
Well, of course, as we've been reporting, Peter, there has been a breach of the United States Capitol. We understand that there is an armed standoff outside the chamber of the House of Representatives. There are images of security officials inside the House with weapons drawn. There have been some Twitter tweets about people shooting through the door into the House. I cannot confirm that, as I'm saying, that we're getting this from social media, but absolutely unprecedented scenes. Of course, there was a debate ongoing in that chamber about an hour ago when scenes of barricades falling outside the Capitol and the building itself being breached by hundreds of the president's supporters, of course, called to Washington this January 6th by the outgoing president himself. Of course, the president speaking earlier, egging his supporters on, talking about how they will not accept the election results, that they will, quote, not stand for this. And so we are now seeing scenes really unprecedented in really what is a bastion of democracy anywhere in the world. That image of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., now amassed by hundreds, if not thousands of supporters inside and outside the building. And we're trying to get you that image, Peter, of these drawn weapons of members of the security apparatus on Capitol Hill, standing inside the chamber with a wooden structure pulled in front of the door to prevent people from being able to access the door with their weapons drawn. And so just an unprecedented scene that really adds credence to some of the commentators that we are speaking to, calling this an attempted coup, but certainly above my pay grade to be able to confirm that quite yet, Peter.
All right, so I guess Joe Biden, Kamala Harris watching this play out, and it seems as if many obstacles just keep being put in their face. But fact is, they will be on January 20, president and vice president, respectively.
Absolutely. I mean, the constitutional process is clear. Whether Donald Trump accepts or concedes that he lost this election and concedes his loss to Joe Biden, the Constitution is clear that a minute past 12 noon on January 20th, the powers vested in the presidency of the United States will transfer to the winner of last year's election. And that happens to be, the former senator from Delaware, the former vice president of the United States, and the president-elect, Joe Biden. So that constitutional process is clear. The constitutional process has worked, as we talked earlier. You had the election, you had the popular vote, you had the electoral college vote. That was confirmed on December 14th when all the electoral college legislatures in the various states met on December 14th to affirm the electoral college votes, which essentially is required to elect a president of the United States. All that needed to happen today was for Congress to essentially rubber stamp what the states had decided. States decide how to run their elections, not the United States Congress. There was a great deal of talk about the role of Vice President Mike Pence, who was going to preside over that joint sitting of Congress. The President of the United States continued to place a great deal of pressure, hoping that Mike Pence was going to come through for us, giving the VP powers that he does not have in terms of the Constitution. He does not have the power to unilaterally decide to accept or reject electoral college votes. That is the purview of the various states where these electoral college votes have been certified. All they needed to do in Congress today was open the arguments, open the envelopes, read the number of electors for Biden or for Trump, and then affirm the 306 to 232 electoral college margin, with which Biden won the election. That's all that Congress was supposed to do today. And of course, that has not happened.
John Le Boutillier, you've been in Congress, and these houses have a certain decorum and a certain way of doing things and a certain behavior that is acceptable. Things have changed quite a bit in the last 4 years. Do you think that things will ever get back to the old normal?
Well, yes, I think they will. I think that we may have to hit rock bottom, and what's going on right now may be rock bottom. But I do think at some point this country elected Joe Biden, who is the most normal candidate who ran recently, and they won quite well. And I think the country will want the government, the majority of people want things to get back to normal and defeat the virus and get the economy back on its feet. That's what most people want. This nonsense is the nutbags that follow Donald Trump, who is a nut himself. Let's face it, Donald Trump is insane. And he lost the election. He doesn't want to accept it. He doesn't want to leave, and he's getting people all ginned up to do this. He may very well get someone killed before this is over, and it's on him.
So they know the outcome, that they cannot stop Biden and Harris becoming president and vice president, yet these Republicans are going through the theater. Do you think they're doing this knowing that actually there'll be no real consequence, but more that they just have an opportunity for some drama today?
I think that's what it was before this invasion of protesters. Now, after this thing's cleared, I'm sure they will not go back to the debate today in the House or Senate. I think they've just put a curfew in Washington at 6 p.m. for everybody except members of Congress, staff, and media. I would be surprised if they get back to doing this debate and vote counting today. But they'll do it tomorrow, maybe. There is physical damage. I just saw pictures of holes in the windows and doors going in and out of the House chamber. So until they get that cleared out, we don't know what they're going to do. But
okay, given what's playing out now, because the Republicans inside Congress and who've been objecting and debating, seeing what's playing out on the steps and parts of the premises of Capitol Hill, will there still be an appetite for these dissenting Republicans to carry on with the objection process? Because there's still 2 other states that need to be debated if they do object. Or would they take what's happening outside and say, the country is watching, Republican supporters are misbehaving in our name, we can't further this by continuing with this theater?
Well, first of all, there are 5 more states that they want to do this debate on. They just started with Arizona. Then they've got to do Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So they've got 5 more after this one's done. I don't think there's, and they do 2 hours debate on each one. Then came this protest in the middle of the first state, Arizona. I don't know if they're going to, the protesters may have so dampened enthusiasm for this thing that the senators may stop it. I don't know. I don't think we know that yet. I think we got to wait and see what the damage is from this thing.
All right, Sherwin, I hope you're still with us. Just before the ceremony, I'll call it that, started, one could hear Mike Pence speaking to somebody off mic, but the mic was live, and he was saying, has my statement gone out? It sounded as if he wanted to make clear what his position was before the whole thing started.
I guess he wanted to lower expectations because the president was speaking just minutes before at a rally outside the White House, talking about, the hopes that Mike Pence will come through for us. And of course, the statement from Mike Pence reads like this: Pence saying that he shares concerns many Americans have regarding election integrity. And of course, that's him sort of dipping his head to Trump supporters, but that it's not correct that he should accept or reject electoral college votes unilaterally, which is what the president was hoping his vice president would do. Mike Pence, of course, probably briefed by constitutional experts, realized that he didn't have that authority. And the implications of what an attempt to do what the president wanted him to do would mean for the electoral and constitutional process the United States was following. And soon after that, of course, when the 2 chambers split to start debating the objection around Arizona, there was a very forceful repudiation of the Republican efforts from no less the Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who affirmed, that Joe Biden was president-elect, and that the states had the authority to conduct their elections, and that those election results were affirmed. And he sort of raised concerns about Republicans trying to emulate what he called Democrat efforts to undermine President Trump's 2016 victory. Of course, the big difference here between the two is that Hillary Clinton conceded that race the next day, and there were concerns around Russian interference and possible collusion with the Trump campaign at that time, leading to the Mueller special counsel investigation, Peter. So the scenarios are not quite the same, but certainly there are a forceful repudiation from a big supporter of this president, who is Senator Mitch McConnell, who played a very important role in defending this president from impeachment, from the confirmation of that impeachment in the Senate following the hearings in the House. So this is not someone that hasn't been in support of the president, but I guess the sedition attempts that we are seeing playing itself out in Washington today, perhaps a bridge too far for the senator of Kentucky.
All right, John Le Boutillier, we're talking about Mike Pence. I suppose, I mean, this man has been faithful to the cause, faithful to Donald Trump right through. And in fact, even at times, perhaps trying to fix things that Donald Trump had said. And at this last moment, it looks as if Donald Trump is turning on him. What does this mean for Mike Pence going forward? Does he have political aspirations, do you think? Or might this be, this is it?
Now, Peter, let's understand the context of today before these demonstrations. Pence, Hawley, Cruz all want to run for president as a Republican in 2024. They want Trump gone, and they want the Trump voters to come with them. And they're falling all over themselves to prove who is the natural successor to Donald Trump. Today, Mike Pence stopped going down that route. He couldn't go that far. And I watched the thing. He put that statement out right before they walked from the Senate to the House to begin this thing. That's when the statement went out to the press, clearly stating, I, as vice president, do not have the constitutional power to select electors and who is legitimate and who isn't. So Trump trashes him. Trump will trash anybody. He doesn't recognize who's been loyal to him for 4 years. He couldn't care less. He wants people to do his bidding now. So I'm telling you, the only way to fix this damn thing is they need to come back into session tomorrow, whatever, and impeach Donald Trump in the House. They could do that in 1 hour, send it over to the Senate, and there'll be 50 Democratic senators in a few days, and you get 17 Republicans, you can throw them out. 67 senators gets rid of Trump forever. There's been a majority vote that says he can never hold public office again. And this action today should disqualify him from ever holding public office again. This is a disgrace to the presidency of the United States that he would urge these thugs, and he urged them, to go down to Congress and do what they've done. This is on him and nobody else.
What can happen in the next 15 days? I mean, we've seen Donald Trump fire his defense secretary literally after the election. And I just wonder, could there be more casualties if people's loyalties are found wanting?
Well, obviously, he can fire anybody in the executive branch that he wants. Doesn't really matter much anymore. I mean, after this thing is done today and tomorrow and whenever, we'll be down to 12 days left. Now, he's floated out ideas that he might bomb Iran. I don't know how doing that would help keep him in office. The fact is, 2 weeks from today, he's out of here. The term ends and Joe Biden gets sworn in. And, I don't think Donald Trump has accepted that yet totally. And he's fighting it and he's lashing out. He's a crazy man. And he's got this cult-like hold on a big swath of the world, not just America. There are a lot of people who just have sold their souls to this guy, of all people.
Sherwin, it is interesting to watch the Capitol Hill police lose control, as it were, over these demonstrators. And people might start to say, but hang on, when the Black Lives Matter demonstrations were taking place, the police were much more firm and much more in control. What might be the difference here? Am I reading too much into this, that they've lost control with Republican supporters, maybe treating them a little bit softer?
I mean, I'm not really sure what the answer to that is. I think just the imagery, Peter, of, what is really a symbol of U.S. democracy, the United States Capitol with lawmakers inside, in addition to the vice president, really presiding over a seminal, pivotal moment in the what is usually a peaceful transfer of power, for that then to be disrupted by people literally storming the gates of Congress, trying to get into the House of Representatives, to have armed security police on the inside of those doors trying to keep people out. Where is Nancy Pelosi? Where is the vice president? Are they hiding in the basement somewhere? It's just an unprecedented scene. So it's going to be very, very interesting to hear some of their personal experiences here. It was Congress, members of Congress that started tweeting that they were warned to shelter in place, that members of the Capitol Police had identified pipe bombs or certainly things that look like pipe bombs. It's just a different scenario to compare what is going on at the United States Capitol, given the occasion that was underway, to what we saw on the streets earlier in the aftermath of the George Floyd, the James Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, George Floyd, of course, in Minneapolis, and the broader conversation about a redress in terms of social and judicial a redress for black victims of police violence in this country. This is very much this is confined to a president that is an outgoing president that has not been able to come to terms with an election loss, despite being being a sitting president that achieved what no other sitting president had achieved before him, which is the highest number of votes in a re-election. But that wasn't enough, because Joe Biden just got more, both in the Electoral College and in the popular vote. I've just been looking, Peter, at some numbers, something sort of a sidebar to this discussion. I wanted to see what the New York Stock Exchange was doing, given the scenes we are seeing in Washington. And it hasn't really appeared to be reacting to this at all. It's up almost 500 points, which I find quizzical, given the fact that the very institutions of democracy in this country appear to be under threat right now.
All right. I mean, I suppose they're reading it more as theatre than a real threat to one of the most important houses in this whole democratic process of the Senate and Congress. Maybe that's how they're interpreting. We're going to take a break, and we'll continue to watch events unfold in the U.S. Capitol Hill. But there are other things going on in the world today. You might be surprised. Stay with us.